All right, everybody, so welcome back to another episode of Colton Posey Fishing. So today we're going to be breaking down the Lowrance fish finder. So as you know, I swapped to the Lowrance simply because I can get a Lowrance Ghost. I got the Lowrance units. Everything is connected and it talks together. And I've really been studying these graphs over the past several months. And I just want to share my experience with you so you get the most out of your unit. So stay tuned. This is something you definitely don't want to miss. All right, everybody, so we're going to be talking about the Lowrance. I'm running the Elite FS9s, okay? I didn't go with the HDS or anything like that. I just went with the Elite FS9. Number one, affordability. Number two, I've run 9s, 10s, 12s. I mean, I just do fine with 9s. So, but I'm running one at the helm, or one at the console and then one at the bow, okay? The one at the bow, I've got it set up a little different. We'll walk up there here shortly, but let's start at the console. So this is where all the business goes down. This is where I'm gonna be studying my maps while I'm driving, areas, you know, when I'm cruising around, late summer, midsummer, early summer, it doesn't really matter. I'm cruising points and stuff like that, looking for bait fish or on those deep channel bends. So one of the biggest things with Elite FS9, by the way, I'm not sponsored by Lowrance at all, okay? This is just simply what I chose to go with just because of affordability and stuff. All right, so the first thing we're going to talk about is your maps, okay? So the maps, in my opinion, are one of the most important things when it comes to fishing, period, because not only is it safety as far as like me going in coves and stuff like that, which I don't trust any map 100% of the time, okay? But either way, it gives me some type of reliability and something that I can go off of, and it helps me find fish quicker within seasonal patterns, right? So one of the first things, once you click on your maps, okay, so you'll be at your home screen, it'll say chart, you'll just click on the map, and then it's going to have this area over here. One of the first things I want to show you is over here on the right side, this whole screen that's up, you can actually touch it and slide it over, and then you're going to have a full 9-inch screen, okay? All right, so, you know, once this menu's popped up, you mash it, and then it'll slide over like that, so you'll have your full 9-inch screen, okay? Now, one of the biggest things that I want to talk about, if you hit the power button down here just one time, and down here on the bottom left, it'll say Edit Overlay. You click on that, bring up your menu again, and it's going to have add, delete, change, all that good stuff, configure. You can actually hit add and then add whatever you want on there. So if you want the water temperature displayed, or you want depth displayed, your GPS, I mean, just everything. One of the things that I forgot to do, course over ground, what this does, it gives me my GPS point, and that keeps me straight on a point, which I do have a puck, but still, you know, it keeps me displayed. And then those, it's going to pop up right here, okay? So, and then you can move it around. You can hit minus or plus, you know, whatever you want to do, make it bigger, make it smaller, it doesn't really matter. Once you get done, just hit save. But, you know, just add kind of whatever you want to add on your chart during that time, and you know, it's super simple. They make it super simple. So one of the biggest things too, you can hit more options, and one of the things I do, this is personal preference, but I always hit course up. I like the my arrow here, you know, kind of pointing whichever direction I'm going. That way my map's moving with me, and I just feel more comfortable with it. You may be more comfortable with heading up or north up or whatever the case may be. But either way, we'll go back in here. Look ahead, what this does, if I have look ahead on, it's actually going to show ahead of where I'm driving. With it showing ahead of where I'm driving, I just feel more comfortable because I'm not necessarily worried all about what's behind me and stuff like that, okay? You can hit chart options again, go down, and you'll have shading, and then you can customize your depth palettes however you want. I have mine set up specific for, you know, if I'm fishing a deep lake or a shallow lake, and then it, you know, it just shows up how I want it to show up on my map when I zoom in and stuff like that. So super simple when it comes to maps. You know, kind of customize it however you want. Like I said, I've got my course, I've got my water temp, I've got time, I've got my speed, all that good stuff set up right here on my screen. That way I can keep up with everything, my volts. That way I know if I'm getting low on voltage. All right, so now we're back at the home menu. All you do is just hit page right here, and then you're gonna have sonar. This is your 2D sonar. This is one of my favorite things about Lowrance. They have one of the best 2D sonars in my opinion. So they've got the 83 kilohertz, they've got the 200 kilohertz high chirp, medium chirp, whatever you may want. All of them's great. They all have their own purpose. I run 83 kilohertz up here because it's a shallower lake. I get a wider cone angle, and I'm typically driving with this. Now, one of the things, let's talk about your sensitivity and your color line. This right here is gonna be 100% dependent on whatever you're fishing. So like right now, I've got a lot of clutter. So I'm gonna take and turn my sensitivity down just a hair. Probably go A2 right there. But I'm not necessarily looking for fish with the 2D sonar right here, okay? So what I'm actually looking for is, this is just used at my helm. I use 2D sonar 90% of the time as like I'm driving, okay? I'm just checking my depth, make sure I'm good, I'm not gonna run over anything. But either way, if you're just working with that, you know, your color line's gonna help too. Brighten it up, dim it up, whatever you need to do. Like I said, it's all dependent on, how dirty your water is that you're fishing or anything like that. Now, another thing, range, I always keep it on auto when it comes to 2D sonar because I don't mind it bouncing up and down. Another thing that I like to do, I turn surface clarity off because if it's on, it doesn't look as good. I don't need to see exactly what's on the surface. It doesn't really matter. Noise rejection, you can turn it off and it'll help, clear up some of that clutter and stuff like that. I just leave it on low. Like I said, this is mainly for me driving, okay? That's all I'm worried about with the 2D sonar. But just play around with these settings. It's all dependent on your lake and how dirty the water is. And then if you go to more options, you're gonna have, stop sonar. You're gonna have, where you can split, you can change your palettes. I run palette 1, that's the one I'm most comfortable with. Temp graph, depth line. A-scope is kind of, it depends on what you want. I like the A-scope because, it's kind of like showing real-time sonar. It's kind of like an old flasher on a boat. So, A-scope, I definitely leave that on. But as far as your 2D settings, that's all I run on my 2D settings. All right, so now let's talk about your side scan and your 2D, or not 2D, downscan. So now with these two right here, understand these particular types of sonar, they're not gonna show up well and they're not gonna show up very accurate unless you're moving 3 to 5 miles an hour, okay? So knowing that, understand if your dealer's trying to get you to put down scan and side scan on the front of your boat, it's pretty much useless unless you're moving that fast, okay? So just remember that. Up front, I run 2D sonar and I just got active target, so I'm running those two particular setups up front. But either case, let's go ahead and talk about side scan. This is the one that most people are interested in and they kind of, really want to know, what I need to be doing. Here's a rule of thumb that you need to keep, in your mind. Anytime you're working with side scan, okay, I want to, like whatever my depth is, I'm at 12.5 feet, right? So I would multiply that by 3, okay? So let's see here, where are we at? Let's see here. Yeah, probably right here, I'd probably go about 40 feet just to be, safe. But either way, you could go 30 or 40 right here. It kind of depends on how the fish are setting up, especially right here, kind of, because I don't want a whole lot in the water column. But the way I've got this set up on mine, it says left only, left and right. What this is going to do, understand when you're, choosing your sonar, you kind of want to set your range up. Anything that's a 9-inch or under, I would not go above 60 foot. I just wouldn't, because you're not going to get a super clear image. Now, the reason my image looks like this is because we're sitting still. It's going to be blurry. But either way, multiply your depth times 3 and then add that to your range, round it up, and if it's like this and you don't have much in that water column where you can see, just keep dropping it down until it's kind of, clean, crisp. I can tell what's going on. 455 and 800 kilohertz, it's up to you. I play around with both of them. It depends on which image shows up clear. Usually 455 in shallower water, 800 kilohertz in deeper water, okay? Contrast, I leave it on auto. Set your palette however you want. I like palette 1. It's just real comfortable for me personally. You can set up range lines where you can see how far exactly the fish are to the right and left of your boat. makes it super simple. But you know, that's about all that I do on side imaging. It's super simple. It shows up super crisp, super clear for Elite FS9. We'll move around here in a few minutes and kind of show you exactly what I'm talking about. But for right now, that's the settings that I typically run with my Elite FS9. All right, so we're back at the home menu. Let's hit Downscan. This is my Downscan. You know, like I always say, choose the palette that's best for your eyes. I like palette 1. I can see very well with palette 1. Leave my range on auto contrast. I typically leave it on auto. I really don't have to do a whole lot to this unit, like compared to other models that I've had before. I kind of run everything on auto, you know. So, but if I'm not getting that crisp, clear image that I want, I typically adjust that contrast down or up depending on the water clarity and stuff like that. So advanced settings, I turn surface clarity off. Fish reveal options, you know, you can do this. This sets up so if you see a fish on the unit, it's going to highlight it like the 2D, so it's going to have those hues, so it helps you confirm if there's fish on here. I love this option on these units. It really helps identifying fish schools. Fish reveal, you can turn that off or on. That's exactly what we just went over, and same with the range lines. But I mean, that's it with the Downscan. I mean, a lot of these units now, I mean, they're just kind of plug and play. It's super simple. So let's get into the bread and butter of the actual like settings. Okay, so we're back at the home menu. At the top left, you're gonna have system. Okay, so once you get into your system settings, you know, it'll ask you about your language, all that stuff when you first turn it on, whatever you prefer to run. But one of the main things I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go down to advanced, and I like going to user interface right here, and I turn my auto hide menu on. And what this does is after a few minutes, on my unit, the menu that's over here on the side I told you could touch and slide over, that will actually just kick it over where it'll do it by itself, so you ain't got to do that every single time in case you forget, or you know, whatever the case may be. So let's go down here to chart. 3D boat selection, I do bass boat. That's what I suggest if you're in a bass boat. Range rings, that's up to you. Heading extension, I turn that on, and what heading extension is when I'm on my chart, this line that's right here, that's exactly what that is. It turns that on and off. I put mine at a mile, and that way I know if I'm getting close to where, you know, I'm typically wanting to go. But extension length, you can change that right there. 1 mile, 100 feet, you know, whatever. And then the rest of this, I keep it, you know, just factory. You don't really have to mess with it at all. Now, once you go to sonar, this is one thing you definitely want to do. Go to installation. You know, I change, if you have multiple units, I change my names to whatever it may be, and then select your transducer type. I'm running the AI 3-in-1. You know, if you're running a different transducer, select that transducer. It'll give the unit the best reading and help it work correctly. Another thing I like to do, I go to alarms, and then I go to settings, and then I go down right here to where it says voltage. I click on voltage, and I go to low voltage, and I turn that on. And what that does, if my batteries get drained throughout the day, my unit will alert me and tell me, and then, you know, I don't have to worry about my boat not cranking up. So that's a really cool option that Lowrance has, and I think all of them have it. But either way, let's jump back here. Now you can customize your you know, your sonars however you want to run them. So this is a really cool thing that I like to do. Let's just say you're going to be running, you can actually set up 2 2D sonars, which is what I have here. And then by clicking on each one, you can change options in any of the 3 categories here, the charts, the, you know, the 2D sonar right in the middle, or the 2D sonar on the right. But if you hit your power button one time, it's going to give you this option right here, adjust splits on the right. And I can change this and make it, you know, however I want it. Super small, I can stretch it out, you know, yay big. I typically like to run it about right there with my 2 2D sonars. That way I'm running high chirp on one with the A scope, and the other one I've got, you know, just the solid 2D sonar and my mapping. So that's a little key feature that a lot of people don't know about when you're, you know, running your charts, your side imaging and stuff like that. It's like right here, I love adjusting the splits. That way I have my chart all the way over here, and then I've got my side scan, the most that I can get out of this screen with it. Once I close this, I've got, you know, I've got my charts where I can see, and I've got my 2D sonar. And you can do the same thing with Downscan, obviously. So, you know, this is just a great way where you can utilize all 9 inches of your screen. You don't have to go with a super 12-inch screen or anything like that. So either way, let's hop up front and talk about what's going on up there. All right, so up here on my bow, you know, I got it set up for active target, and I've got it set up for 2D sonar, okay? So, you know, you can set your maps and all this stuff. What I do is I do the same split where I adjust the splits, and then I've got more of the screen, you know, on my active target, if I run my active target, or if, like I typically do, I run my 2D sonar, okay? So I can run either one just like that, same settings that I do back there. The only thing that I do want to say is when you're doing your 2D sonar, as long as you can get away with it, I select high chirp, just high chirp with the A scope, okay? So the high chirp with the A scope, what that does is it's kind of like a live view of your actual baits and stuff like that. We'll get into that here shortly, but just make sure you have that A scope turned on. Like I said, that's in more options. You'll scroll down to A scope and it'll be right there for you. But high chirp, I run shallow water, okay? So I typically set mine to shallow, and the reason I do that is because we're fishing under 100 foot deep. So I don't really need any kind of crazy settings or anything like that for, you know, my units, because I'm fishing that shallow. So we're fixing to get into the bread and butter. I'm gonna start up here at the bow and show you exactly what you're looking at, and then we'll work back there to the console. All right, so one of the first things I want to talk about, noise rejection on my front. When I'm running the A-scope, I run high if I can. You know, if you turn it off, you're going to get a little bit more clutter. But you know, go as low as you can. Right here, honestly, with this water being as dirty as it is, I'm going to go high just to be on the safe side. Surface clarity, I turn it off. If you turn it on high, you know, it is what it is. You just choose however you want to do that. I just turn it off. Scroll speed, here's the main thing. I want to leave this high on high chirp because I will be able to actually see my bait like I'm using you know, live sonar. Also, max ping speed. You want max ping speed at all times, okay? That way you're getting the most out of your transducer. So now what we're going to do, I'm fixing to drop a bait down. Let's see here. See my bait? That line that just went up on the graph there, that's actually my bait. If you look at the flasher, you'll see this thing moving up and down. The flasher will be on your right hand side. All right, it's down, that's my bait. I'm gonna pick it up. See those lines moving up and down? That's actually my bait. So it's kind of similar to live sonar. It is really live sonar. This is just the old school version. So you older folks are gonna know exactly what I'm talking about. But if you look right there on the flasher, that thing moving up and down at the top right hand of the screen, right under menu, that is actually my bait moving up and down. So that will help you if you do not have active target live scope or anything like that. You're just running solid 2D sonar like I have for years. You can still catch those fish live. The only problem is if they get under the boat and they move out from under the boat, you kind of got to guess where they go. So let's move to the active target. All right, so let's talk about active target, okay? This is my active target. If you look right there on the right-hand screen, it's gonna show, you know, my trailer motor as I move it around, which direction I'm looking and stuff like that. This is obviously the bottom. What I like to do with the Elite FS9, you don't have a whole lot of screen, okay? But it shows a super crisp, clear image. I do like active target, okay? It's not something that I want to rely on, but I do like it. So when you set up your sonar, you have the choice for auto, down, forward, or scout. I select whichever one I'm running, which is forward. One of the things that I like to do, I set my forward range with the 9 no more than 60 foot. I try to keep it at 50. That way it's most comfortable and I get a better return, you know, at what I'm looking at. Plus 50 foot, that's a pretty good distance away from the boat. The down range, I set this kind of to wherever, you know, the depth is. So I set up my depth, like if we're 25 foot, I'm gonna set it right at 25 to 30 foot, just so I get a better return in the middle of that water column, okay? Contrast and stuff, I go a +4. It just kind of depends on the water clarity, but I haven't had to change it off +4. Noise rejection, you can go off, low, medium, high, high, you're gonna get a pretty good return. I like going medium. That way I get a little bit better return. Like this dot right here that's moving, that's actually a fish. Those right there are actually fish, which is pretty cool. But once you go to more options, you can set up your palette, whatever you want it. I run palette 1, that way I can see better. I run stable view, mode icon, upper right. That's gonna adjust your boat angle and stuff like that. So, but that's it, guys. That's super simple. That's how I set up the grass and stuff. So we're gonna jump over to the console and cruise around. I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about on the 2D down and side scan. All right, so we're at the helm. You know, I got my 2D sonar. I got my charts right here. You know, you can kind of see exactly what I'm talking about with my sonar, how clear and stuff it is with the 2D. This way I'm just getting a good clean return. I can see what's going on in front of me, so on and so forth. So let's jump over to my other 2D type scan. So this is where I'm going to be running 2 different 2D sonars. On this far right when I'm running the 83 kilohertz, this one I'm running the 200 kilohertz. And you can set it up high chirp, medium chirp, you know, kind of whatever you want to run. But you know, this gives me a good return. I can really tell what's going on, especially if I'm running over a little bait ball. So, you know, if all you can afford is like a 2D sonar setup, this is a great option for that. So let's go ahead and jump into our side scan. So side scan, I mean, as you can tell, we're sitting, you know, over quite a bit of water. Let's see, how deep are we? We are at 21 feet, and this is the image that I got. So 21 feet, I'm gonna go with around 60 foot. Just be on the safe side. That way I can kind of get the best return for the small unit. And yeah, this is the clarity that I'm typically gonna get with the Lowrance, the side console. We've got some fish in the water column right here. You can click, zoom in, you know, whatever you want to do. But you know, you can see the clean, crisp return. I run palette 1, you know, adjust it to your eyes, however you prefer it. And you know, set it up from there. But this is exactly what it's going to look like on side scan. Now, one of the tips that I can give you for side scan, when you're scanning from shallow to deep, so it's shallow right here and it goes to deep out here, I'm going to be looking for dots in the water column, just like this. Okay, that will indicate fish. Okay, if I'm scanning from, you know, deep to shallow, you're going to be looking for shadows in the water column. Okay, so that's a little simple tip that I can give you for identifying fish on side scan. So look for shadows if you're looking up shallow. If you're looking out deep, look for dots like you would with your down scan. Okay, so with my down scan, this is what we're looking at on down scan. Okay, you know, I'm looking for these dots and stuff like that. And obviously on your down scan, you will definitely be able to tell when you run into a school of fish. The fish reveal option actually helps big time when you're trying to identify fish that may be on the bottom, even up in the water column, especially if you're messing with like little spotted bass, little smallmouth or anything like that. But guys, that is my setup for my Lowrance units. This is how I run them. Just always remember, your side scan and your down scan are not going to show crisp, clean, clear pictures or really much of anything if you're sitting still. Okay, so you need to be moving at least 3 to 5 miles an hour. So either way, guys, if the video helps you at all, make sure to like, subscribe for more content. I got you covered when it comes to anything bass fishing. Also, we got members only, $2 a month. It helps me out with gas, tackle, all that stuff. If you can do that, that would be awesome. If you can't, I appreciate it either way. Thank you for stopping by, and I'll see you next time.
I said 50 years.
Bigger motor, though. We have to have a bigger motor. Yeah. That little thing right there, it is struggling. It is screaming.
It is screaming.
Little 60 horse. That's a big boat to have 60 horses on. Let these waves get on by. I ain't scared to go back here. I wonder if
I forget we're already old.
Yeah, 50 years we would be 80. So they're definitely not that old.
Okay, so 30 years.
Yeah.
20 years.
I wasn't gonna say nothing.
A push.